How proper names really work. First part, classifying descriptions. As you probably know, according to the old theory of proper names defended by Frege, Russell, Wittgenstein, Strawson and Searle, a proper name abbreviates a cluster of descriptions which builds its meaning. According to Searle, who defended this theory in a more systematic way, when you use a proper name like Aristotle, you are applying some indefinite subset of an open set of co-referential identifying descriptions. Aristotle, for example, is abbreviating the tutor of Alexander, the author of the Metaphysics, the greatest disciple of Plato, and so on. My first point against this form of cluster theory is that the cluster seems as something completely disordered. Indeed, I think that the reason why the cluster theory has a weak explanatory power is that the cluster hasn't enough structure. Following this hypothesis, it seems plausible to think that the cluster has some order, that its descriptions have different values. So my first aim is to put an order in this mess. Under this working hypothesis, my aim is to build a rule to regulate the cluster. This rule must be a meta-rule and its expression a meta-description, since the descriptions belonging to the cluster are expressions of cognitive rules, usually only tacitly known, helping us to identify the object. We will see that the function of this meta-descriptive rule is to select the most fundamental descriptions, to show how they work together, and to exclude the merely auxiliary descriptions. But how to find the most fundamental descriptions? The answer is Wittgensteinian. Look how ordinary language works. More methodically, use Austin's method to look at the dictionaries. But proper names are usually not dictionarized. Never mind, although they are not dictionarized, they are encyclopedized. So look what the encyclopedias have to say about proper names. Consider, for example, the entry about Aristotle in the Wikipedia. The first thing that you will read is Aristotle was born in 384 BC in Stagira and died in 322 BC in Chalcis. He produced the major philosophical system of antiquity. What you find here are two fundamental description rules. The first one localizes Aristotle spatio-temporally as someone who was born in Stagira in 384 BC and so on. The second one says the reason why we still apply this name today. It's because he was the author of the Aristotelian opus. I will call these two description rules respectively the localizing and the characterizing description. Again, the fundamental description rules are A. The localizing description rule. This gives us the spatio-temporal location and career of the object. B. The characterizing description rule. This gives us the properties, which are the reason why we use the name. Here we begin to see how the failure to consider the relevant descriptions can be misleading. Frege gives as example the descriptions the tutor of Alexander the Great and the founder of the Lyceum for the name Aristotle, and Wittgenstein gives as example the person who has been found as baby in the Nile by the daughter of the Pharaoh for the name Moses. But these definite descriptions are irrelevant because they are much more contingent than the fundamental, localizing and characterizing descriptions. Surely, Aristotle and Moses would remain what they are if they didn't do these things, but have satisfied fundamental descriptions. But they would not remain what they are or were if they do not satisfy any fundamental description. So I wish to call these other descriptions auxiliary descriptions, considering them accidental, since they are very contingent if compared with the localizing and characterizing descriptions, the fundamental descriptions. Examples of auxiliary descriptions for Aristotle are: first, accidental but well-known descriptions like the teacher of Alexander the Great. Second, accidental but merely unknown descriptions like the husband of Pythias and the lover of her Phyllis. Third, metaphorical descriptions like the master of those who know. And finally, accidental descriptions like the philosopher named on this page. Another case is auxiliary definite descriptions. Another case is the metalinguistic description of the proper name, for example, the owner of the name N, the owner of the name Aristotle. This is also accidental, since Aristotle could be baptized with a different name. Indeed, we can imagine a possible world near to ours where Aristotle is called Pittacus. Suppose that in this possible world, Pittacus satisfied the localizing description for Aristotle. He was born in Stagira in 384 and so on, and he also satisfied the characterizing rule. He wrote the whole Aristotelian opus. Of course, he would be our Aristotle, though called Pittacus.